Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. Okay, so I have my cup of coffee. I have also Three Women by Lisa Tadeo, which a reminder was our book for August. It is still August. I think by the time this posts, I will have posted the discussion questions on Tumblr. I hope we can have a conversation about it, which may have already started by this time. I don't know. I'm in the past and the present and the future all at once. I really hope you liked the book. I had a lot to say about it. I will probably link my Goodreads review in case you wanted to see what I thought about it. But yeah, okay. Just going to get right into the fact that Taylor Swift's new album came out. So one of the first questions I got was, hey Olivie, to celebrate Taylor Swift's new album, can you give us your thoughts? Back when I did the podcast, I used to talk about Taylor Swift all the time. You probably know that I have a lot of conspiracy theories about her. You may already know that. They're not really conspiracy theories. They're just, theories. Like, for example, my theory that the song Love Yourself by Justin Bieber, which was written by Ed Sheeran, I have a fun theory that I plucked from nowhere that Ed Sheeran wrote that song about Taylor Swift. So there's one of my theories. But, okay, so this new album, I really like it. I really did not think I would. I hated all of the singles, and I hated them all in very different ways. So Me, for example, the first time I heard it, I was like, this is a great song that I'm never going to want to listen to again. Sometimes things are like so catchy that you got it once and then you're like, I'm good. It had a very like Pixar feel to it, or not Pixar, but what is that, DreamWorks? It just felt very animated, like too animated. I also felt like it was kind of a weird, there was like an underlying threat to it almost. I had thought for a hot sec that like she and Joe Alwyn had broken up because You'll Never Find Another Like Me was kind of a weird stab. And then let's see what came next. You Need to Calm Down. I liked it, but I thought it was a weird choice by Taylor, because it's there's kind of a thin line between it being your experience and being an ally, and it just wasn't totally clear. A lot of people were making assumptions about her sexuality. I just felt like it's a good song. I think that it's very, very important to a lot of people. And then to me, it was just kind of like, this is a fun song, this is a fun video. It's cool she's getting political. And then I thought, I wish she would take a harder stance on being a woman. After watching what she went through with that sexual harassment trial and the guy who countersued her who sued her for defamation, she countersued. I thought that was such a big thing, and like, it's one thing, I think, because she's such a confessional songwriter, but she also has a tendency to like write song fan fiction, like Getaway Car and the one she wrote about the Kennedys. Like, sometimes she adapts other people's experiences and sometimes she sings about her own. And I was like, as important as I think You Need to Calm Down is, I wish she would sing about her own experience. And then, of course, if you've listened to the album, you know that she did. And I was really pleased about that, but I'll come back to it. And then Lover, I hate Lover. Oh no, The Archer was next. Didn't like The Archer. I kept waiting for it to like drop, like just musically I was kind of like, this is not interesting. Lover felt like she had just rediscovered Fleetwood Mac. It just didn't feel new to me, really. It didn't feel... Her lyrics are very confessional, which is great, but for me, I didn't like it. Then the album comes out, I have the lowest possible expectations, and it kind of blew me out of the water. I really, really enjoyed it. I hinted at the fact that I was thrilled with The Man. I'm so happy she released that song. She, out of everyone in the world, has the right to release that song. So I think just... from the female experience, we don't hear often enough that our anger is justified. And so I think by Taylor, who has, a mostly young female audience, to come out and point out the ways that there is really sexism in everything she does, I sometimes get the feeling, actually, that there are younger generations who are privileged enough to not feel like they lack privilege. And so for Taylor to point those things out, and Taylor, someone who already has a lot of privilege, to point out she's running as fast as she can, that brings us together, and I appreciate that. I'm so happy. I'm just so happy that she released that song. So Reputation has kind of its own persona. Reputation is it's a very confident album, almost bravado confidence. And so I didn't really enjoy that I'm a romance writer, and in a lot of ways Taylor Swift is a romance writer too. So sometimes the way she portrays romance is it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And specifically Reputation. I felt like the kind of love she was portraying in Reputation felt too soon, which is weird. She's got this weird mix between her as an artist and then her as a persona, and then Reputation kind of like merge those things where it's like, okay, you're singing about how you've met this guy, he might be the one, but also you really just met him, and we have watched your dating track record, and like, I'm more of a cynic, so I prefer the 1989 view of love. I think 1989 is like almost the perfect album. It's almost the perfect record. I liked the 1989 view of love, which is, I feel like this is going to end, but I'm here for it anyway, versus Reputation is like, this is never gonna end, everything's gonna be fine, except for Delicate, which was then my favorite song on the album. So then we get Lover, and I really think this is the first time that Taylor really seems to show an understanding of relationships. It's weird, I really don't mean to like analyze her, but she opens the door for analysis. She seems to want people to analyze what she's saying. She kind of got famous on her liner notes and referencing things that are true, so it's hard to separate her from reality. And I read some quote from her or something circulating on Tumblr about how she thought that love would feel like Red. Loving You is Red. That song is very, I think she's right that falling in love feels like Red, but then staying in love is golden. And I think she really nailed that with Lover. Okay, so songs I really liked. Cruel Summer. I initially really liked Paper Rings. Like, I loved it at first, and I sent it to Mr. Blake because he likes catchy things. But then it's kind of one of those where I don't super feel the need to listen to it too often. It's almost too boppy. I read someone saying that it sounds a little bit like the Glee cast performing Valerie, and now I can't unhear that. It does sound like something Glee is performing. So I like the song, but I'm kind of already over it. Cruel Summer I love. Miss Americana I love. It does kind of remind me of So It Goes, and also New Americana by Halsey, which was funny. She has a funny tweet about it. I Think He Knows might be my favorite. I really like that one. It's fun. I like Cornelia Street. I am buying into the idea that Cornelia Street is about Karlie Kloss. I don't necessarily think that it's like a romantic thing. I think we all know that going through friend breakups is also very painful, and I think it does sound like a breakup song, and apparently when she lived on Cornelia Street, or Carly lived on, so one of them lived on Cornelia Street in New York, and it seems like it might be about Karlie Kloss, and I think that actually makes a lot of sense, whether you buy into the romantic relationship or not. I think it makes sense. I like Afterglow. I think that that's very interesting. She must have written that after a really bad fight. I like Daylight. The back half of the album is a little slow. I was definitely pleased to hear Jack Antonoff's influence. Once Cruel Summer came on, I was like, oh, there's Jack. You can hear it. So I'm kind of going on here. I don't want to miss anything. I mentioned that London Boy feels like something that could have come out of The Commoner's Guide. Death by a Thousand Cuts I also really liked. So was not overly in love with the back half of the album. The front half of the album was like, yes, I love this. She did it. She gave us old Taylor. There were a few songs that sounded like they came off Fearless, or, with obviously modern production sounds, but they sounded like Fearless or Speak Now kind of vibes. It was cool to see old Taylor back and to see how she's moving forward. And yeah, I really liked the album. I really thought I was going to have I really thought I was going to be a lot more cynical about it, because I was very cynical about Reputation. Reputation felt thin. It felt thin to me. But yeah. So, we're talking about sex again. Okay, hi. Sorry if this is going to sound like a weird question, but I'm a 21-year-old virgin and only been kissed once, and I'm horny all the time. I've considered dating a few guys, but I find them so dull. At this point, I'm just so impatient to feel sexually attractive. Attractive or attracted to a person? How would you advise I juggle this? Just wait until I meet someone I find exciting, or just rip off the Band-Aid and start a casual relationship? I feel like there's two people in my head all the time, and it's getting exhausting. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you straight up, are you masturbating? Because it seems like that could help you a lot. You didn't really specify if you are or not, but I think this might be something your jump to should I wait for someone to be in a relationship with or should I be in a casual relationship now is kind of a weirdly polarizing like your choices there are not awesome. You don't need someone else to experience the satisfaction of sex. You don't need another person to have an orgasm. Obviously, I understand sex is if sex for you is like it is for me, and it's about touch, and it's about chemistry and being with another person, then yes, obviously you want to do it with a person. But I'm just saying, I just want to make sure you know it's okay if you want to satisfy yourself. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It would help, actually. Even being married, I still take care of myself sometimes. I'm a modern lady. I don't know. There's so many movies about this. This is like the plot of a movie. It really is. The thing is, you just want to be with someone who makes you feel safe. You want to be with someone who you trust enough. You don't need to trust them with like your deepest secrets. You need to trust them with, if you say stop or you're uncomfortable, they'll do it, no questions asked. Whether that's someone you meet or someone you already know, I don't know. I don't know what your dynamic is. I don't know what has kept you from dating up until this point. We're coming from a very similar and very different place. So I didn't lose my virginity until I was 20. And I, at that point, was just like, I don't remember why I'm holding on to this. It doesn't matter to me. I would rather like experience this, know if I'd want to do it again, and kind of just move on from there. And it ended up being a guy I did not know particularly well. I was studying with him for finals, but it happened he was very good about asking me if I was okay, about explaining to me what he was doing and how it was supposed to feel, or how it, he seemed to know what was up. And then I never saw him again. Actually, I saw him one more time a couple years after that, and it was very, he made it very weird, but it was for like 2 seconds. But the point is, he wasn't important to me. I moved on from that experience like, oh, okay, so now I know what to expect, and it's fine. Because I'll tell you the truth, if you've never done anything, losing your virginity will be very, I don't want to say very, it was very painful for me. It may be painful for you. So you kind of just want to get it out of the way. Only in the sense that your first time probably will not be magical. For anyone who's watching this, your first time is not going to be like dreamy and romantic. It's not going to be what happens in historical romances, where the guy's like, oh, it'll hurt at first, but then we'll push through and you'll enjoy it. That was not my experience at all. It hurt, I bled. So, also, that's not a myth. I'm losing track of what I've already said now and what I haven't, but some people seem to think that the bleeding is a myth. It is not. I had never used a tampon. Nothing really had been up there except like some fingers sometimes, not even my own. So, it hurt. Bearing that in mind, however you would feel safe is kind of where you want to go with that. I would try, honestly, I would try masturbation first. Go to Bellesa. I recommend them all the time. Watch a couple videos if you want. Be careful with porn because a lot of porn is designed for men and that's not what sex is like, but I trust Bellesa. If you watch a video on there, I think you're in good hands. I don't know whether you want to wait for something that excites you or whether you want to take advantage of an opportunity that makes itself available is really up to you. I can't tell you what to do. I can tell you that first time isn't going to be fun. So you probably want to prepare yourself for the not fun in advance. Oh, and so I said we were very much the same and also very different because I dated a lot. I used to, and we're going to talk about this later because someone asked me about dating. I used to have a dating policy where I would never say no to a first date, provided it wasn't someone who made me feel like very uncomfortable. If it was someone who I was like, well, I don't know if I like them, but whatever, okay, we'll give it a try. So I had dated a lot of dudes and I kind of knew what I was attracted to already. I had done a lot of things in between my first kiss and the first time I had sex. I'd done quite a lot in between. So you will want all those things to happen because sex is best when there is a lot of foreplay, especially for women, and especially at the point you're losing your virginity, you're going to want a lot of foreplay because otherwise it's going to be painful. So, I'm not really answering your question. I mostly want to take it off the table for you that you feel like sex has to involve your horniness does not have to involve another person. You should definitely wait until it's at least someone you can feel comfortable around. But beyond that, I don't know, it's up to you. You don't need to be in a relationship to enjoy sex. You really don't. Just be safe. Use a condom. Birth control is for pregnancy. Condoms are for sexually transmitted diseases. So always use a condom. Be safe. If anything looks, smells off, don't do it. As long as you're being safe, then, you know, you're going to have to go with your gut on this one. Thank you for your last video. Well, this was a while ago, so the sex video. It was very informative and much more realistic than some sources I've read. Good, I hope that it helped. I didn't actually talk about how to be better at the actual act of sex because I was focusing on more of the attitude. So, how to be better at sex. I actually chatted about this with Mr. Blake to ask him, at what point did I become better? He seems to think, Mr. Blake seems to think that I'm very good at sex, which is a weird thing to say, but I'm giving advice, so I guess you should at least know that, like, the reviews are good. I get 5 stars or whatever. Congratulations to me. So I asked him, but I definitely didn't start that way because when we were first, I really had not been having sex for very long before I met him. I was a little bit rigid at first because I wanted to have sex, but I also was not particularly comfortable talking about what I wanted from sex. And where am I going with this? I'm gonna lose this thread so many times, I promise you. Okay, so to be totally honest with you, I think I started to get better once I loosened up a little bit. So I got a little bit more comfortable touching myself in front of him. That was difficult for me to do at first. But once you incorporate that into sex, it makes it better for you. And if he can see that you're enjoying yourself, he gets more into it as well. I believe the first time I ever did that, he bought me a cookie after. That's a real thing he did. That's embarrassing. Don't tell anyone. Anyway, you want to get more comfortable with things like that. You also want to be very comfortable touching him because most men, for example, are unaware that how to use all the materials that they have. I don't have euphemisms for this. You don't want to forget about the balls. And you also don't want to forget about what is behind the balls. So I talked a little bit about how Cosmo is really enamored with the idea that you should like massage his perineum a little bit, which is definitely something that you can do. Especially when you're going down on a guy, you kind of want to use your hands to do something. But sort of understanding his anatomy would be good. There's no telling if he understands it. He probably does not. I think most men are never going to argue when a finger goes, you know, it just like teases around. They're probably not going to necessarily say anything about it. They may not actually notice. I once asked a guy if he, that we're friends now, and I asked him if he ever knew that I did that, and he said no, he had no idea. So they are not necessarily the sensation. They can't necessarily identify what's happening. So yeah, getting comfortable touching him, knowing that he likes it in a certain place or not, is a lot of experimentation. So feeling comfortable trying things can actually make a big difference. This feels gross. I hope I'm not being like gross. All of this is just going to come down to trying it and seeing what works, because if you can figure out what works, then you can make it better. Certainly, if you can figure out what doesn't work, then you know not to do those things. Okay, so the thing is, for guys, sex is very basic, right? They just want to put their penis in something that feels like a very small space. So whatever you can do to make it the smallest space you possibly can. I'm sure you've heard of Kegels. That is definitely a thing you could do. There's also, when he is doing the thrusting, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to just lay there. You can contribute to that. Actually, there was something in Three Women, in fact, where Lena was pointing out that she was moving herself forward so that he didn't have to come so far. A helpful thing to do. I think it's a little, I do feel very strange giving this sort of sex advice because it's it's different. You don't really know what you have to figure out what your partner wants. And so really, I'm just going to repeat it once again, that your attitude going into it is what makes the difference. That's basically what Mr. Blake came up with when I asked him. He's like, it's not that likely that a girl will be bad at sex. The only way she could be bad at it is if she didn't really want to be there, if she was very rigid and she maybe was saying no to everything. If she's saying no to everything, then that's a saying no in general, I would say. So yeah, so that kind of goes back to my whole thing about if you don't want to have it, it's not going to be good. But how to be better at it? Try things. That's how you get better at everything. Practice, practice, practice. But yeah, no, but be open, I guess. Be open to the experience, and then you can, when you're having more fun, he will be having more fun. Definitely incorporate foreplay. It will always be better for you with foreplay. I just read a sex diary that was so disappointing, and she was talking about how she thought she was in love with this guy, and yet he never gave her more than 30 seconds of foreplay, and she couldn't finish during sex. And I'm like, you super should not be in love with this guy. Anyway, I honestly just think I got better when I was like more inspired. When I like kind of had a better idea of what I could do or what I should do, or I don't know. I didn't really know how to masturbate until I had like mastered it myself, and then once I had figured it out myself and I tried it during sex, that was a whole. So for me, I guess the reason I can't answer this question is because for me, I have to try things by myself sort of until I feel comfortable asking for it, or I have to sort of like preconceive what it might be like so that I can do it in real life. I don't know, it's the perfectionist in me, I guess. So I think for me, I was putting a lot of stress on sex, or I was stressing myself out trying to do things right. Just let that go. And however you need to do that to let it go. For me, I had to practice by myself in order to feel better about doing it in the presence of another human being. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And now since I became more comfortable doing that, now if he wants to try something, I'm into it. It's I can do it. I'm not as stressed. I trust my partner now. Before I didn't, and I think that was coming from a place of like ignorance. I just didn't know what it was going to be like, and I didn't know if I was going to like it. But then after trying enough things and liking enough things, now I'm kind of like, okay, I trust that if it doesn't feel good right away, I can make this feel good. So I think that's how you get better at it. I hope that answers the question. Hi, Olivie. I'm ready to start dating again after coming out of a long relationship. However, I find myself lost in the modern conventions of dating. Tinder, casual dating, ghosting. For someone who's a romantic at heart, I'm increasingly horrified by the anecdotes of my friends. Do you have any dating advice? Yes! I have this excellent line from Catherine Ryan, the comedian. I hope you watched Glitter Room because it's very good. But she has a great line. Men are taught to be someone, women are taught to find someone. And I think that if you think about that while you're dating, it will change the stakes for you. I think that dating can be a very fun thing if the stakes are very low. It becomes very difficult when you're seeking out the one. There's a great episode of Sex and the City that I've never forgotten where Charlotte at some point just kind of like primal screams, I've been dating since I was 15, I'm exhausted, where is he? Because she is only dating to find Mr. Right. And I don't think this is a great way to approach dating, especially because dating is so easy now that you don't have to be seriously dating. It's not like when Match.com first started, those were people who were like looking for a permanent relationship, versus Tinder is a lot about casual sex. So you get this wide array of people who want very different things on the spectrum of dating. And if you can make it so that your stakes are fairly low, then I think you'll do better. And I don't mean, I know you're a romantic at heart, but don't go in thinking, maybe this will be my husband. Because again, we are taught to find someone, but why not teach yourself to be someone instead? I think if you're more satisfied with where you are in life, you won't necessarily feel like, you don't want to think about every date might be the one, because then that leaves you with a very stressful level of expectation. Try to think of dating as like a fun thing you're doing to expand your horizons. You're meeting new people. You never know who that person might be. They may not be your future husband. They might be your next best friend. They might be the next guy you meet who has great book recommendations. They may be the next guy you meet who listens to the best music or who knows the best place to get brunch. You just think about the person you're about to meet not as the end game or, it's sort of a pass-fail end game or not. Don't think of it that way. Think of it as this is a person, a human being, who might be super interesting. He also might be great in bed, and maybe you don't need to date him, but hey, look back at the 20-year-old virgin. She probably would love to meet a guy who's like nice and good in bed and doesn't necessarily have to be serious. So my point is, I know that you are looking for love, and I think that you should be open to finding love. But I also think that you should be open to what else you might find, or the idea that you might not find love. I think you will, but don't make that your end game. Don't make the purpose of dating to be at the end of this. It's not running a marathon, where the purpose is to finish. There's no destination in dating. I mean, there could be, but don't think of it that way. Ugh, I'm saying so many cheesy things, but try to think about it as the experience. I said, for example, that I used to never say no to a first date. This is different. These are different times. Obviously, you have to say no to quite a lot of people on Tinder, I assume. But if it was someone who I was like, I don't know if there would be something here, but maybe there is, I'd go on that first date and something great usually came out of it. This one guy I went on a date with, we went glow-in-the-dark mini golfing, and then we watched a Guy Ritchie movie that now I can't remember. But Guy Ritchie is my favorite director, and I would never have known that if I hadn't gone on this date. So think of it as you're finding more pieces of yourself when you see how you interact with other people. And I get why that's annoying and why you wouldn't want to do that, but dating is like, if you think about it, dating is kind of fun. You can make it fun for yourself because it can be about going to new places. That could be something that when you go on a date, try something you've never tried before so that it isn't just about finding this person, but it's also about finding parts of yourself or finding out what you want. Just remember, I always say this, but make a list of the 10 things that you absolutely must have in a partner. Because I think when you get exhausted after dating for a while, when you get to Charlotte's point where she's like, I've been dating since I was 15, where is he? And then she ends up marrying a man who's very wrong for her. I think it's because, you get so worn down from all the efforts of dating that you are like, my standards have dropped and I'm just going to settle for the next guy who meets like even basic expectations. So don't let yourself do that. Make a list of the things that you must have that are just, if they don't have it, he just is gone, no matter what. Even if you're like, I don't know, but maybe it'll get better. No, if he doesn't do those 10 things, that's it. Don't exhaust yourself by trying to commit to someone who isn't giving you what you want. One of my examples was he calls me when he says he will. If he does not call me when he says he's going to call me, I don't have time for that. I just don't. So I think that's kind of the attitude you want to go into this with. Dating is hard as it is, so you don't want to make it harder for yourself. You don't want to allow yourself to get strung along. And you also don't want to get caught up in the idea that you're failing if you don't find someone. I think that's really the way that it would be the hardest, that it's like, I think that especially with dating, we kind of get to this fallacy that's like, if none of these things work out, I must be the problem. That's wrong. It's a logical fallacy. That's not it. Because relationships require two people. This is one thought I had about the song Afterglow when she said, it's all my fault. It's never all one person's fault. Sure, she probably has some things that she can work on. She's mentioned in many of her songs that she's the jealous type, so. But the point is, there are two people. It's not necessarily your problem if a guy you like kind of disappears somehow. Just think of it as something that, a thing that didn't work, but maybe you learned something, maybe you got something out of it. That's, I think, the part of dating that is most frustrating. There's going to be times where you can't answer the question, what went wrong? That definitely happened to me. I really fell like head over heels for this guy at the end of college. I was making crazy choices for him. And now I'm very relieved that relationship didn't work out because I think I would have done something very stupid. Well, so I knew where he was going after college, and I had not gotten into the school that was near there, but then I did. I got in off the wait list, and I think that if he had not ghosted me the way that he had, I would have changed my plans and gone there. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but the point is that I wasn't making that decision for myself. I was not making decisions with my head on straight. I think he did me a favor in the long run. Eventually, I did call him, and I was like, I think I deserve to know what went wrong. I'm actually surprised he answered the phone. He kind of stopped answering my text messages, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is over. That sucks. And then a couple of months later, I called him, and I was like, I gotta know what happened. Like, I thought we had a connection, and then he said, well, it turned out it was something I would never have guessed. It was that it was the end of college, and his friend had just revealed that she and her boyfriend were breaking up, and she had feelings for him, and he had had feelings for her for a long time, so he wanted to see how that went. Super not cool that he didn't just tell me that, but that was not something I could have known. That wasn't something that had anything to do with me. So don't make the mistake of thinking that if it keeps happening to you, it's your fault. Sometimes men are just trash. Sometimes people just suck. And sure, there's things you can learn about yourself from relationships that don't work out, but not necessarily. So yeah, just try to have fun. There's tons of guys that I dated that I think fondly of because they taught me something about myself. There's one date that I wish I could go back and redo. It was this guy I wasn't that into, largely because I was hung up on another guy, not this guy. That whole thing was like 2 weeks total. It's so hard to be young and in love. No, this guy, he was a musician. I thought he was an amazing musician. I'm very attracted to talent, but we didn't have any chemistry. And I remember he asked me if I wanted to dance with him, like swing dance with him. And at the time I was like, ugh, weird. I want to go home. But now I wish I had done it because I think it would have been a fun night. I think that I kind of kept myself from having fun that night. We ended up being friends, and I still think about how I wish I had danced with him. Not because I thought we were going to fall in love, but because it would have been fun to dance. So yeah, I guess that's the attitude I want you to have going in. Okay, and I've talked a lot, and I really don't know if I've been helpful. I really don't know how to answer the how to be better at sex question. I think about this a lot, or I am thinking about this a lot right now. But anyway, this has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing. So I think, I have one question at least about college, someone who has just started college. So if you have any more questions about that, we can talk about that. Anyway, this has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I'll see you next week.